All right, Brian Summers is the founder and editor of the Airline Observer. He joins me now from Los Angeles. Great to have you with us. I guess this is a long time coming, right? What did you make of the statement and the general rules that we know to be sort of the platform that the airlines will be facing in the US?
You know, to be honest, I follow this all the time, and I thought it was a little bit weak. As you mentioned, in the European Union, you could get up to 600 euros if your flight is delayed or canceled by a certain number of hours. Here in the United States, Joe Biden had a press conference this morning, and he didn't say exactly how much compensation people would get, but the thinking is it might not be much. And also, if you listen to what he said, he didn't necessarily say you'd get a cash payment as you do in the European Union. You could get a travel credit or even frequent flyer miles. So this is kind of a US copy of what's happening in Europe, but doesn't appear to be as strong.
Do you feel that there should be a monetary value attached like we're seeing in the EU? Because we know in the EU, airlines are saying the rules are too strict and it's actually a huge financial burden. So I guess it's about finding a balance here.
I think it is about finding a balance. The U.S. airlines say the same thing. We just finished the first quarter. The first quarter earnings came out, and among major U.S. airlines, only American Airlines had a profit, and it was a tiny profit. You know, a lot of people think airlines are out there making billions of dollars. They're not. U.S. airlines tell me they can't really afford to pay compensation on the one hand, and on the other, you know, they will say, look, a lot of these delays and cancellations, they're not our fault. The United States doesn't have enough air traffic controllers. You have a lot of issues with bad weather. And sometimes it's just not even clear, is it the airline's fault or is it air traffic control's fault?
Yeah. I mean, you know, we know that they were talking about controllable cancellations, right? So then it's two things that come up. Will airlines find a loophole to sort of decipher and define what a controllable cancellation is? That comes to question as well. And generally, you know, the definitions, the rules around this are going to be fascinating. And I'm also assuming that they would probably pass on the cost if it becomes a lot more expensive.
You're absolutely right. And the interesting thing is the Department of Transportation actually had a press release this morning in which they said for the first time they will define what a controllable cancellation is. And just for the viewers, this is kind of what it sounds like. It's something in the airline's control. So weather or air traffic control, not in the airline's control, and not controllable. But sometimes, you know, it'll be 9 o'clock at night and maybe a plane was delayed because of weather at 6 that morning. And the question becomes, you know, whose fault does it become 13 hours later if the plane has been late all day? These are very difficult things to answer.
Yeah, I know. And right, when you travel into the US, my sister was just there and she had 3 flight issues and it was just sort of tough, deal with it. And I just couldn't believe the way the airlines responded. What does this mean for consumers down the line? I mean, at least I guess it is a step in the right direction. And as Biden said, there's a correlation between, you know, compensation and airlines taking accountability for delays versus the amount of delays that you see.
It absolutely is. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with these travel credits or people are going to get cash or whatever. But the Biden administration also said something else interesting this morning. They said when they took over in Washington, none of the major U.S. airlines guaranteed travelers that they would provide them a hotel when there was a controllable cancellation. So sometimes if there was a mechanical delay, you'd get a hotel, sometimes you wouldn't. There was no official policy. But now the Biden administration has leaned on airlines and said, you should do this. It's still voluntary. But the Biden administration said this morning that of the major US airlines, only one, Frontier Airlines, won't provide a hotel for a controllable cancellation. So it is a step in the right direction, even here in the United States.